Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drink From My Cup, a show where we bring you stories that speak to your heart and your mind. My name is Justin, your host. Today on the show, we're going to have the story of Charles Kabogoza. He was thrust into the spotlight when he was the lead actor in a local family series that aired on NTV Uganda, Deception.
Don't say that
Don't use big words that you can't understand. You stopped being my mother a long time ago. You are not my mother.
Away from the Chris that millions adore, is a man that has lived with pain for so many years since his late father, the late Semwezi, was murdered in cold blood. Today on the show, Chris opens the curtains to his dark past. He will also tell us about the divisions, the grave consequences that his father's death has had on his family as a whole. And also, he will tell us about finding solace in his acting career and finding healing in his girlfriend, then and now wife of 10 years. Right now, I'm in Busega at the beautiful home of Mr. and Mrs. Kabogoza, that is Chris and his wife. You are going to come with me and we speak to them and get this story. Welcome to the premiere episode of Drink From My Cup. My name is Justin, your host, and I'm steady and ready to plunge into the pool of what is going to turn out to be your most favorite television show of all time. Welcome aboard. This is Drink From My Cup. For the past at least 3 years, many Ugandans are living in pain and fear due to the numerous unresolved murders, like the young ladies raped and murdered in Entebbe, the Muslim sheikhs that were shot dead, many in broad daylight, the late State Attorney Joan Kagezi, the late AIGP Andrew Kawesi, who were shot dead, the kidnaps, followed by murders like that of Susan Magara, the attacks of families by machete-wielding men in the areas of Greater Masaka like Rengo and many other districts. As the country seeks answers to these unresolved murders, to some people like Charles Kabogoza, it is a moment of déjà vu because they all remind him of his late father's murder. The late James Semwezi Kagwa, a former business tycoon, was shot dead at close range in broad daylight in the areas of Busega, Kampala. To this day, it has been moments of terror for his family as they cannot come to terms with the fact that their father's life ended this way, and also the thought of death keeps lingering in their minds as they worry about which family member their late father's attackers would come for next. You're welcome to the Drink From My Cup show.
Thank you, Justin.
Your home is very beautiful, very peaceful, so many trees, and I smell a beautiful aroma coming from somewhere. I hope I'm part of the budget.
Yeah. She wanted to prove to you that Charlie found a good wife.
Many people know you as Chris. Greet your fans.
My shouts out go to all of you who are watching Drink From My Cup. It feels so lovely to share my life with you. Maybe there's a lesson or two to learn. So I just want you to keep your eyes glued on your screens. Thank you.
I'm sure many people are wondering when you will be back on air. You need to talk to them about that. The guys loved you because you spoke what many of them are going through. And the ladies loved you because once in a while you stood up to mom. Well, once in a while you didn't. You stood up to mom-in-law.
Why did our bosses fire us? We were still enjoying the ministry. I mean, we were. If there's something that gives me so much joy in life, I think that thing is called acting. I love delivering stories that change and touch people's lives.
Away from acting, how is life going on?
I should say life is beautiful. My principle is always the same. Live one day at a time and make the best out of every moment. Yes, and I enjoy. I'm non-complaining. I love my life, I love my wife, I love my children. I love it all. Yes, and I'm enjoying it.
How is business? What are you up to now?
Business is actually like, before we started the show, I was telling you, deception did me a great favor as far as my business is concerned, you know. Since deception started, business started growing at an equivalent level. I use that opportunity, I think, positively, you know. Many people get that chance when they're in the spotlight, start drinking the most expensive champagnes, you know, partying with the cutest ladies, you know, somehow left, right, and center. But I use my time for business, and I think I don't regret. Surely the business is growing, and I give glory to God for that.
You have a very, very beautiful home. How did the idea of this home come about? The green, the trees, the make of the house.
It's so unfortunate. Omanye nyumba z'abasajja tezigwa z'aba Africans. I got this plan, the idea from the first time when we were acting in Deception. It felt so bad. Do you know how sad it is to act a life living in this spacious house, and you know, these cushions, this everything, and you know, and when you're returning home away from the acting, you return to this humble abode, you know. So when we were in that house in Machindi, that house was in Machindi, I was like, you know what, I think I should also own a bungalow, and it should be bigger than this house, so that when tomorrow Justin comes to interview me in my real life, there's not so much of a difference from the Chris that they see on TV. And that's where this idea started growing from. And I'm a person that loves nature. And I actually prefer nature to the house itself, you know. I prefer my green. That's why I'm lamenting it's taken so long to rain. I've never seen the compound so dry like it is, you know. It feels bad, you know. And you can't handle the national water bills if you try to sprinkle. But that's where the entire inspiration came from. So I just made sure that I do enough fruits in my compound so that whenever I'm feeling hungry, I don't feel bad at whoever is in the house. I just pick out a few fruits. You eat and move on.
Charles, who so many other millions know as Chris, take us back to that year, 2002.
2002. Every time, actually, it's so sad now. Before it was only 2002. I don't know what happens during these even years. 2002 and 2016. Those are the most terrible things that happened to me. Most terrible, despicable, uncouth, and everything but bad. May their souls rest in peace. 2002 is when my dad was murdered. And 2016, my beautiful mother breathed her last. 2002, that fateful, you know, every time I relive this story, it comes back in a graphical sense. It was Saturday. We were doing a book. What book was that in literature? Those guys that were doing. Were they doing... there was a book they were doing, the literature class, as it was called Othello. I wasn't a literature student, but I was an actor in high school. That Saturday, you know, my dad was such a tough disciplinarian, you know. When he would come to school to visit, if you've not shown up in 10 to 15 minutes, first and foremost, he would not look for you. Secondly, he would just drive away. He'll wait. He expected you to always be on your toes, to find out what is going on. I'm here and what. That was his style. But that weekend, he came and he parked at the school office. And this time he didn't go away. I think that weekend I'd run out of school for what? Cross country? I don't know what we were preparing for, you know? He didn't go. He waited. And deep down, if you remember how King's College Budo was big, they found needles in girls, and there was a Cappadoc that we used to enjoy because somehow you'd look at the girls putting on towels up to here, and you know, for some reason the weekends were always sweeter in the girls' end paddocks. Yeah, those ends. There was a Grace House. Yeah. There's a Cappadoc behind Grace House. Guster, yes, Guster, yeah, Guster, and that's where we were chilling, doing all the. And they told me, "Gwe, your dad has been at office for the past like an hour." I'm like, dude, you're kidding. My dad doesn't wait. I think that's my uncle. He's like, no, your dad has been waiting for you. I ran from that paddock. I think people who know Budo, how big it is, they will know the distance I'm talking about. From Guster to South Africa House. And
that is like from Watoto Church to Vision Group.
Yes, from Watoto, actually to industrial area.
Yeah, to industrial area.
Yes. Let me tell you, I ran, and I really did. And the way he embraced me this time was not the usual embrace that I always get from my dad. Like, this guy is so courteous today, you know. We spoke, and this time he was revealing more than he usually does, you know. He was talking more than he usually does. And this time I enjoyed his company much more than I usually do. I didn't know I was looking at him for the last time, you know. And when he told me, when it was time to go, he had brought me so many things, you know. And it was me and my brother that time in Bodo Grace. I had to create a reason for him to come back on Monday, you know. So I told him, Daddy, I need a book. There's a book called Othello, and we're using it in literature. Remember, I'm not even a literature student. We're using it in literature. I just created something that would bring him back. And I knew when I talk about a book, he would come back and bring me a book.
Because that was his area.
Yes!
Education.
Anything to do with books. And come that Monday morning, I'm called out of class. Charles, you're needed outside. We were taken to one of our teachers' houses, and the mood was so somber. I tested something is wrong. Immediately, my instinct went up. What has happened to my mother? What's wrong with my mother? What is wrong with my mother? Because she had health issues then, you know, having these attacks, pressure, and nothing crossed that this is my dad we're going to talk about. I mean, he was just here before, a day or two before, and they prayed, and they're like, Charles, your father has been murdered.
They first prayed for you?
Yeah, they first prayed, yeah.
How many were in the room?
No, it was Mrs. Kagwa and Mr. Kagwa. Mrs. Kagwa was a biology teacher. Mr. Kagwa was a physics teacher. Then so many other people that I don't even recall. I remember Mrs. Kagwa because she got us from class. She's like, Charles,
What class was your brother in? And what class were you?
we were both in senior 5. Your father has been murdered. God, that was difficult. That was, I don't know. He had been murdered. And there was no literature book. There was no Pride and Prejudice. There was no Othello. It was a message of death. How killed? so short. It broke me. It broke us.
You're still watching Drink From My Cup with me, Justine, your host. We'll be back in a moment. Drink From My Cup continues after the break.